And we're live. Hello and welcome. This is the 79th week that I am doing Hex Therapy live. It has been a wild ride and I'm going to keep doing it. So welcome to the show, everybody. There's going to be a great show tonight. I am going to go over what it means that Hex is the perfect instance of impulsivity insurance for your finances. And so stick around and we'll get into that. And then there's a lot of other stuff going on in the crypto space. There's a certain crypto that is in the top 30, I think, that is doomed, and it's not Hex. So stay tuned for all that right after a word from the intro.
It's from Maddie ALLin of Hex Therapy Live. I like Maddie. Maddie tries to make the world a healthier place. He's a mental health professional. He's done research.
Big videos on sudden wealth syndrome.
There's nothing that a human being could do better than try and heal his fellow man.
Maddie ALLin's got that covered. He does emotional, feel-good, mind management, emotion stuff like as his gig because he's a therapist. That's what he does for a living. Like he helps heal people.
16-year psychology veteran here, ready to break down the crypto space for you. Let's see, what do we have going on today? So I was jogging the other day. I like to go for runs for about 4 miles every day. And I was running yesterday and I was thinking more deeply about Hex and what it really means. Why did I get into it? Why is it the perfect cryptocurrency for a therapist to promote for free, right? And it all goes back to this concept that I think I have maybe a better way of explaining now. And that has to do with one function of Hex is impulsivity insurance. Now, I want to talk more about what is impulsivity and, why is it so important that we have at least some percentage of our disposable income in an asset that gives us a type of protection that no other asset in the world can provide. And when it comes to Hex, it's the time locking function. Now, we just heard, I want to make sure my sound's okay. We just heard from Mr. Levin, who is on Crypto Coffee Stream, that even somebody who's an OG Bitcoiner who has found Hex recently and is able to explain it in a very sophisticated way still didn't know that more than 10% of user-controlled liquid Hex is staked. The real percentage, which was shown by the Hex audit that Gunter, the accountant, did, is more like 75% of the user-controlled liquid Hex. It has been staked. It's been time-locked. And on average, the amount of time that people have time-locked their money is over 6 years, 6.6 years. This is incredible. This is something that we should certainly be getting the word out about. We should be bragging about it. We should be breaking it down. And so that's what I'm trying to do here, is to help break down what this really means as a new vehicle for people's behavior change. When economists, when Nobel Prize winning economists say that people are bad at saving, according to their research, and then they think that that means that there should be more centralized control over people's retirements and the value that they create in the world should be locked up by a centralized institution like a mutual fund or a 401k or something. That creates a lot of problems in the world because power isn't meant to be centralized like that without any checks and balances. Now, I will admit that when people are left to their own devices, they are bad at saving. That is what the initial analysis will tell you. Well, let's go a little bit deeper. Why is it that people are so bad at saving? if you look at the actual research methods that are used by the economists that are drawing these conclusions, they're using a type of behavior measurement task called delayed discounting. So if you go on Google Scholar, you can bring up all the articles that exist, all the research that's been done in the field of delayed discounting, which is thought to also be a measure of impulsivity. And the delayed discounting research shows that people would rather have $100 now than $110 in the future. And the researchers who are interpreting these results are concluding that that makes somebody impulsive, that that's the wrong, bad decision, that it's irrational to not want to wait. And, you know, maybe sometimes they rationalize it a little bit, why not everybody wants to wait to have a little bit more money in the future. And this is the other side of the coin from patience. There's impulsivity and then there's patience. And the part that I really want to dig in about is this idea that people saving for the future is rational, because the definition of whether people saving for the future is rational or not depends on the monetary policy of whatever central bank there is in that situation. And we know that central banks lie and cook their numbers and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if we use inflation as the measurement, you know, most economists and researchers aren't even adjusting their measurement of how good people are at saving for inflation. That's literally how bad the research is. Now, maybe some of them are starting to do that now, but like that hasn't been the standard for the past 50 years. So it tells you how young the research is, how poor it is, and how much better Hex is, right? Because I would posit that it's not a matter of whether people are good or bad at saving when inflation is so bad that it's really more rational to buy something today if you know the price tomorrow is going to be much higher. The interest rates in the world today, they don't match inflation. And so it, you know, creates a punishment and an insanely high fee for people to save. And saving becomes an irrational behavior. And if all of the economists and researchers in the world are going to pretend like an irrational behavior is a rational behavior of saving, you know, that's they're trying to say that it's rational when it's really irrational. That really disturbs how we interpret people's behavior. It's getting it that wrong, as wrong as the economists have been getting it. These are Nobel Prize winning economists. Thaler is one of them, Richard Thaler. They're getting it so bad that the truth is actually the opposite of what they're saying and what they're winning the Nobel Prize for. The truth is that people are just fine at saving if the monetary environment and the monetary tool that they have is sufficient. But when you give somebody a broken tool and it would, you know, hurt them to use it, when it hurts people to save, of course they're not going to save. Why would they do something irrational? And so you're gaslighting the entire population, saying that they're bad at saving, when in reality you're bad at creating monetary theory. Like you're just projecting the problem onto the people. And, you know, people don't get educated about this kind of stuff. And people may never be interested in understanding monetary theory because everybody's been gaslighting them. And it's kind of a sad reality. Well, now that Hex exists, I think that there's a lot of hope. Because despite the price volatility, thankfully there's price volatility in the end. It really takes a lot of learning to get to the point where you can understand the point of Hex. And I think that's why we are such a big part of crypto Twitter, but we still have relatively low adoption. And I think that might change. I think that Hex might go viral anytime. We'll review some of the things that Richard has been doing and how much value they've created in my analysis. But I just want to hit this point a little bit further, that the value of having a way to stop your own impulsive behavior and to have a monetary instrument that's better than the dollar at guaranteeing that you won't pay inflation if you stake at least as long as average, is an incredible invention. It's more than Nobel Prize worthy. It's worthy of being adopted as the world store of value. Maybe not reserve, maybe having a reserve currency, maybe it would still be better to have more stability built into that. And there's plenty of time for Richard to unveil some of the things he's hinted at when it comes to him creating a more stable version of a stable coin than we currently have. But I think it's really incredible, and it shouldn't be missed that you can look up any research on behavioral economics, and the field was founded by this guy Richard Thaler, who got it wrong, and he got it so backwards that it's really hard for people to understand economics until you just consider this alternate view, until you take the Hex perspective that, it's worth having a certain percentage of your funds locked up so you can't screw them up. And so the people who are creating the monetary policy can't screw it up. That's super valuable in my opinion. And it's hard to put a price on that because it all depends on how many people adopt it. That's true for any market. Used cars, same thing. So sure, Ponzi's need a lot of adoption, but this isn't a Ponzi because it doesn't promise something that it can't pay out. Just because we don't know what the future price of Hex is going to be in dollar terms, that says more about the dollar policy than it does about the Hex code and the Hex monetary policy, right? And it also says something about the fact that Hex is designed to be volatile so that people will be more likely to either use it in the short term to make money or lose money based on their own gambling and short-term outlook. Some people have made a lot of money and some people have lost a lot of money by trading Hex and not holding it for the average amount of time. But the most powerful thing I've seen is people setting up staking ladders. And, for me, I have money coming out every year on my birthday. And every year I'm going to restake half of the coins. So I have my principal preserved and live off the interest. And so far it's been going so well that I've mostly been able to live off of the airdrops that were given to me for free. So, to know that 75% of the liquid Hex that is actually in the hands of the users, and that's 100% of the Hex that will ever be in user control, we think, based on game theory. See my whole other weekly stream that's been going for 75 weeks to learn more about that. But we have every reason to believe that, unlike almost every other coin and almost every other investment ever created, that Richard Hart has no reason to ever sell a single Hex, and that he has never sold a single Hex already over 900 days into the product. So it's really just you and the code and your own delayed gratification and your own behaviors is what's most valuable to focus on, because it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's in fact, that may lure some people in, that people have gotten rich quickly, relatively speaking. But remember, everybody who got rich in Hex bought 90, 85, 80% dips and held through multiple of those types of dips. And that weeded out a lot of the people. Only about probably 25% of people survived, right? Because we've got 95,000 stakers right now, and there are over 400,000 wallets that have ever or even currently hold Hex. Now we know that some of those wallets got airdrops and that sort of thing. So maybe it's a little bit higher. Maybe only like a third of people didn't get shaken out. But what that tells me is that there's a good percentage of people who are using Hex as intended, way more than 10%. But there's also a huge percentage of people that they tried to use it differently than it was intended. They tried to trade and hold liquid, and their slippery, weak lettuce hands just couldn't hold on to all the mad gains that were occurring in Hex. Super incredible. This is the first experiment of its kind, and I'm just so impressed by this. This is a tool that people have never had before in order to control their own impulsivity, control their own degen trading side of their brain. And if you don't choose to use Hex, how it's designed to time lock it and to spread it out over time and to delay gratification, well, you're going to be paying the rest of us an inflation rate. And that's going to hurt you in the USD price along the way. Now, I think that part of the reason why so many stakes are coming out now that are getting sold, I'm not sure the exact percentage, but it's more than 0% of stakes being like sold instead of restaked for longer. Part of it, I think, is because a lot of people, they heard Richard Hart say that Hex could do a 10,000x in 2.5 years. And now we're about 2.5 years in. So all those people who created stakes for that time frame, they might be starting to cash out now. But doesn't that create an awesome opportunity for the next person who comes in with a 2.5 year time horizon? Isn't that incredible? Or somebody who has an even longer time horizon than that. We don't know what the USD price will be in the future, but we do know what amount of shares you will be able to buy back if you stake at least as long as average, whatever that average is, when you leave the system. So somebody who's staking now and staking 6.6 years, they might end up paying a tiny little bit of inflation, maybe a couple percent or something to people, because by the time 6.6 years are up, then the average at that point might be up to 7 years, right? Or 7.5 years, because a bunch of people will have come in behind them and staked longer. And so that is one thing to keep in mind. But again, creating a staking ladder with your initial staking ladder being putting your investment in, maybe at least $200 to like survive the fees. And then, and for me, I was privileged enough to have, when I started out in Hex, at least a couple $1,000s to like play with and see how it goes. And, then I invested a lot more along the way, but because Bitcoin was going up and Ethereum was going up and everything, but, an amount that somebody's comfortable with to split it into four stakes initially, one of those being liquid. So you have a 5, 10, and 15 year stake, each 25% of your staking ladder, and then another 25% is liquid. So that way, if the price of Hex suddenly, if like Hex suddenly goes viral, because it hasn't yet, we know this, we can see how many people have staked, we can see how many people have bought. Like if Hex finally goes viral, finally stops getting gatekept so much, and the price shoots up to $10 or more, something wild, but totally within the realm of cryptocurrency. If it stays on track with how Bitcoin has been performing, then, you can sell 25% of your portfolio, and it's you know what, that's a 20x from here or something, 200x, something really cool. Yeah, I think that's a 200x. So yeah, like, you know, and then you still have that 5, 10, and 15-year stake that's paying you interest every day. And those 10 and 15-year stakes are very unlikely to get diluted. So you would always be able to buy back at least the number of shares as a percentage of the total shares in the system. Because shares are deflationary, that's you wouldn't be able to buy the same number of T shares, but the number of T shares that you would be able to buy relative to the total number of shares that exist would still be equal to what you bought now. Again, if you're at least staking the average length, whatever that is when your stake comes out. Now, so that's impulsivity insurance, right? Like why is it important for people to have impulsivity insurance in their finances? Because the world is scary, because markets go up and down, because even the stock market goes up, can crash 50% or more. If the price of everything doubles and the stock market goes down 50%, then, you know, if you pulled out your money and you bought the top of the stock market, then you're really not able to even buy half of what you used to be able to buy, right? So your purchasing power is getting wrecked in this kind of economy. And that's like the most risk off thing you have. But what we know is that the world economy, you know, it goes in cycles. And we've just come off of the longest upcycle that's ever existed in human history. Recent human history, in the past like 100 years or 150 years, right? So like, you know, the previous expansion since 2008 has been even longer than the bull run that happened in the 90s, right? So the point is that all of the horrors that will happen during the recession and or depression that the United States could go into, that the world could go into, you know, like it's valuable to have an investment that you can't screw up when you get fudded out by life, you know? And that's not to say that Hex is a sure thing, but Hex is a fairly sure thing in Hex terms. So we don't know what the value of a Hex will be, but so far so good, right? And I'm just, you know, I'm preparing myself for the ups and downs that will happen in life and in the economy, right? The price of gas has gotten very expensive recently, not just on the blockchain, but in, you know, at the oil pump. And so, you know, that's something that everybody's going to be feeling, and it's part of our psychological environment as, you know, an interconnected world. You know, you'll see more and more people freaking out about the price of things, about, you know, how much they're making. You know, it's going to be kind of a rough transition period. And a lot of people, they haven't even lived through or don't even remember the last real recession that happened or the last major economic downturn, right? We don't know how bad it'll be, but if I had to guess, I would say things will get way worse than they are now, and then things will get better. And it might be 6 months or a year, or it might be a couple of years of a downturn, but then things will go up. And so for me, I'm not counting on pulling out any money out of Hex in the short term. Like, I'm all in. I'm, you know, just like my license plate says, I'm out of Hex. And the reason I'm out of Hex because I've sent so much of it to my future self. Now, my past self has treated me pretty well because I've put aside money for the bear market so I can live without selling when the price is low. And yeah, so we don't really know what Hex is going to do in a bear market, because this type of bear market that the world has gone into has never been seen before, right? In recent times when cryptocurrencies existed. But what we do know is that people like free money. People fight for it. Millions of people can get free money on Pulse Chain. Pulse Chain being delayed is a positive because the further we are into the bear market, the harder it'll pump when it comes out. And, I really like this tweet that I found by the Mandalorian. I'll share it here. This is a little bit more about macro to kind of ease your mind after we've talked about the good and bad parts. Last cycle, Bitcoin took exactly 365 days from the top to the bottom. 2021 BTC topped on 11/7, 2021. We're 213 days from the top into this bear market, which means we have 152 days left to go. Should Bitcoin repeat its last cycle, we will bottom in exactly 5 months around November 7th or 8th. And that is looking at the amount of time it took Bitcoin to go from the top to the bottom in 2017, when it peaked at December 15th, 2017, and then it had its low, I think this is going to say, on 12/15/2018. So that's, that means that there's more time to accumulate. It means that we could see lower prices going forward, or Hex might get back up because Hex has been time locked by so many people because it's so scarce, because we're starting to get more and more attention brought to us. The next thing I want to show is this video of Richard wearing a $3,300 tracksuit from Louis Vuitton twerking. You've seen this because it came out like 3 days ago. But what you may not realize is that it got over 400,000 views on Twitter. How much would that cost if you wanted to buy that type of exposure and that number of impressions? I'm not sure I believe this number, but it could be real. What Google is saying is that the cost per impression on Twitter on average is $3.50. Is that real? That blows my mind. And what that means is that if that's really how much they charge for that type of thing, then it would be $3.50 times 400,000, which is $1.4 million. So I'm pretty sure with his $3,300 tracksuit, he definitely got a good deal on that type of guerrilla marketing and outrage marketing that we discussed in the last episode of Hex Therapy Live, or was it 2 weeks ago? It's on the thumbnail. So how incredible is that, right? So, impulsivity, it's something that we do need a little bit of insurance against if, we're staying up to date with the market. If you set it and forget it, and you're really not following along on Twitter, and you're really not following along on YouTube, and you're just planning to come back in 5 years, or you've got some plan to like dollar cost average in and not pay attention to anything in the community, not pay attention to anything that Richard is doing, or, all the outreach that we're doing. If you totally don't want to participate in anything, then that's one way to do it. And, you aren't over investing your time and attention. And, but for a lot of people, it's fun. It's a hobby. It's interesting. You're meeting people that have become online friends, people that we meet up with in real life at Hex events and meetups and that sort of thing. Crypto Sparbuck did a tour of 40 different cities around the United States. I went to 6 of them. It was incredible meeting up with Hexicans. We went out to Kankakee, Illinois, a couple weekends ago with Art Morikawa, and he did his $2 million opening of an animal rescue. And what an incredible experience. I'm looking through my notes here because I definitely said I would shout somebody out, and Here we go. Liberty Watchman. I wanted to shout you out because I heard that you couldn't make it to the event, but I also heard that you watch all these videos and you're a big fan. And so shout out to you, Liberty Watchman. One of your friends had come and let me know, a little bit about your situation. And I'm just really pleased that you're somebody who can benefit from the combination of, mental health and Hex and cryptocurrency talk. So I'm just really pleased that, that there are real people out there who care about the message, who care about others. And so it was really amazing to hear about you from your friend who had driven, so far to make it there to the event. So sorry for not remembering right away to bring you up, but that it meant a lot to hear that you're out there listening to all the streams that we do and caring about the message. So, that also reminds me about something else that blew my mind. I did an episode about 3 or 4 weeks ago where I was talking about how we can, new ways to possibly incentivize people to prevent suicide. Because that's something that I care a lot about. It's something that I did in my old job when I worked as a substance abuse and mental health counselor for 7 years. And, I'm not able on the internet to give people individual, like therapy. It's against the law to practice in other states and that sort of thing. But I still wanted to do something. I wanted to get the message out there, increase awareness, and get people thinking about how they can know what to do if they get suicidal, because this was at the time that Terra Luna UST was crashing. People were losing millions of dollars. Somebody had shouted out to me on Twitter saying, hey, is there anything you can do to help these people or anyone who's suffering from suicidal thinking? And so I made a special episode, and you can go back and look at the thumbnails and pick out exactly which one it was. But I created a blog post and a survey and basically a reward program for up to 100 people who are willing to get help for their suicidal thinking. And I emphasized very carefully that you wouldn't be able to contact me for the help, but that I would post all the resources, and I would even offer people 911 Pulse tokens if they went through the process of creating like a 2 or 3 sentence safety plan. And if they filled out a survey that that said that, yes, I'm willing to call the crisis hotline and to get help, and here's what I'll do in case of emergency, in case I'm planning on actually committing suicide, what can I do to help myself, and that sort of thing. Creating these plans, it's a really important step for people, because if you can catch people when they have a mixture of clear thinking and depressed thinking, then that can be really helpful when the thinking gets more depressed. And so I realized that just talking about it, it doesn't help everybody. But I was just kind of throwing this out as a new idea. Again, an idea I got when I was exercising and jogging. And, also when I go for long drives, that also is a great time to think deeply about how Hex can help increase people's mental health, or anything in the Hex ecosystem. In this case, Pulse Chain. Well, believe it or not, I opened up my survey counter thing, my survey monkey or whatever it is, and 8 people had signed up for the program and created a safety plan saying that they were not going to kill themselves, and that now they have a plan to live, right? And that blew my mind. It made me so happy. It really warmed my heart. And I got really excited, kind of renewed in this whole mission that I'm on. Because I've certainly I've created a lot of content for Hex users, always with the intent to weave in the mental health aspects that, that can also benefit people. It's kind of a package deal. If you're listening to me to learn all the things I can teach you about crypto and about everything that's happening in the Hex ecosystem and the cryptocurrency world, like, you're going to have to listen to some sound bites of me talking about mental health. And so shout out to everybody who has used that program, or even if you thought about using it and you want to go back to that episode and see what it's all about. You can click in the description of that video and you can see the website that you can go to, the blog posts, and everything that you need in order to create your safety plan and to get paid 911 pulse. So yeah, I'm super pumped. Thanks everybody for participating in that. And maybe it was people getting the word out. Maybe it was somebody watching this who knows somebody who's suicidal, and hey, here you can get some free money. Like, we're not sure how valuable it'll be. Like 911 pulse points might only be a few cents, or it might be way more money way down the line. But the point isn't, how much I could afford to give away. The point was, I just wanted to prove a point that that we can incentivize people to improve their mental health. We can pay people to improve their mental health. That's always been my platform. In Hex, we can pay ourselves by time locking. That's one thing that we already do in Hex. But the more programs and incentives that we can build into people's behavior to do other things that are mentally healthy for them, other than having some lottery ticket to look forward to in the future, having some impulsivity insurance, right? I wish Hex also had, well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. I was going to say, I wish Hex also had like a stable coin that you could lock, and then you could have some price stability insurance as well. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be hopefully a free market. And so you're never going to know the exact purchasing power of a monetary tool that you have. Still, the monetary tool of Hex is a significant leap forward from the old financial technology that we've had, where central bankers decide how much purchasing power we really have in the future. And their policy is mentally unhealthy for the entire world. When people are running a rat race and they're having their time and purchasing power stolen from them continuously at a compounding rate, that's it's horrible for people's mental health. It's horrible. It helps explain why people hate each other. Partially, not completely, but part of the reason why people are in a bad mood is because they can't maintain their physical health as well, because they're running this race, becoming sleep deprived, using too much caffeine and alcohol and other forms of self-medication, all of the gambling and anger outbursts, and people not eating healthy, people using anything they can to escape. Those are physical symptoms. Those are monetary symptoms as well. We can't just always blame the individual for their behaviors. And I know that as a society, it's important that we have accountability at the individual level, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be accountability at the macro level. And it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be better tools for people to define their own behaviors and create their own people, places, and things and money. Richard Hart has created a new money that becomes part of our environment. And I think that Hex, when used correctly, not as you're investing your entire life savings, and maybe you invested a small amount of money and it turned into your entire life savings. And that's why we do sudden wealth syndrome therapy from time to time. But, if people aren't gambling more than they're able to lose, look, that's a loaded statement too, because who wants to lose money? And, once you have an idea of how valuable your hex is, it's really hard to like take that 90% dump, right? But again, if you're using it as intended to, it's not money that you're living off of now, and it's something that you can delay gratification on, that's the best possible way that you could use this tool. And what the famous psychologist Abraham Maslow said, that if all you have is a hammer, everything in the world is gonna, everything looks like a nail, right? And that's got some deep wisdom in it, because not everything is a nail. There are different problems that require different tools. And if you're always using the same tool for every different problem that you have in life, that's going to be less effective than if you're finding the right tool for the right job. And Hex appears to me to be the right tool for speculating in cryptocurrency with its wild price volatility. And even when you make it, it's important to time lock those gains so that you don't give them up prematurely, and that you don't give them up at a discount, and that you dollar cost average out of something, right? I have a plan that Hex allows me to lock into, where I am dollar cost averaging out of Hex over a 15-year time frame. And maybe Hex is so valuable, or maybe I'm so crazy, quote unquote, that I extend the plan even further voluntarily, right? I voluntarily locked up my money. Now, I want to, differentiate between a certain cryptocurrency that it looks like is having a major problem. It looks like there's another crypto that might be insolvent and might collapse. And I want to compare what the difference is between that and between Hex, because it's going to be that voluntary locking up, and the fact that Hex is not a Ponzi, because even though it offers high returns, it's in Hex terms, meaning that's the unit that it's returning. It's not guaranteeing you how much dollars it will be worth in the future. You're the one thinking about how many dollars it'll be worth in the future. What Hex is doing when you time lock it and you pay your future self is telling you how much Hex you can earn in interest. And that interest is, it's something that the contract can guarantee, the smart contract, because the smart contract is the only thing that can create Hex at this point. And, and people will decide what they want to do with that interest, whether they want to sell it and crash the price and market dump everything, and put everybody in a bad mood who's short-term thinking, or maybe long-term thinkers who were thinking too far ahead, right? A critical skill in Hex is to live in the here and now and not count on the gains. If you're doing that, everything else falls into place. For me, my yearly stake that's coming out, I'm not depending on that income. I've already planned ahead. And that meant that I missed out on some gains because I was dollar cost averaging before we hit the peak, before we hit the all-time high. Nobody could ever sell the all-time high. It's statistically impossible for everybody to sell the high. Otherwise, some people would catch it and everybody else's orders would not fit into the same block. And then it would go higher, or it wouldn't even be able to go as high as it did, because some people were buying and some people were selling. So not everybody can buy the bottom and not everybody can sell the top. And so because I've been okay with not catching the all-time high or the all-time low, it puts me in a much better mental state. And, it partially is lucky, right? And not everybody is able to be at that point now. There are people who have bought the top, and just like I did when the top was much lower, bought every top on the way up, also bought a lot of lows on the way up, and overall profited. And now I've been able to extract so much value from airdrops and from selling my Bitcoin when that went up. It helps when Richard and Kareem and Whales Only and everybody else tells you when the top is. It's really nice. It's really profitable. It took a lot of waiting. I had to wait 5 years for those. About 4.5 years for my Bitcoin trades to be profitable. In Hex, it only took 1.5 or 2 years before that became extremely profitable to where I could cash out a very small percentage and then send the rest to the future, and then not have to worry about this next yearly stake coming out. I'm prepared for the next year or two. And so that's very reassuring, and it allows me to play the game as it was intended. Now, what was my behavior and what was my mental strategy and state before I reached this point? Well, I was in severe delay gratification mode. I was making all my own food. I think there was a 2 to 3 year period there where I wouldn't eat out even on a monthly basis. It was more rare than that. And I wasn't buying all the new clothes that I wanted or maybe even needed. I wasn't going on trips. I was working a lot of extra hours, and I luckily I was doing something that was meaningful to me, just without knowing that I would become a multimillionaire in Hex. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't, when I bought crypto, when I put my life savings into Bitcoin before Hex was created, like, it went down a lot. It sucked. Okay. Just like Hex is sucking right now for people who are new. But if you look at my behaviors, I'm one of the 1 in 4 people or something, 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 people that survived all these dips and came out looking pretty good. And, as much FOMO as you can get from all the people who have already bought in, I'm here to tell you, crypto still is filled with opportunities that you don't want to be impulsive about. You want to take your time. You want a dollar cost average in. The viewership for the stream that we did on Quant Gang or on Game Theory Gang with Wendy's for Tendies a couple weeks ago was off the charts. People watched for twice as long as they normally watch. We've been doing that show for like 1.5 years. So it was even off the charts for our own standards, which has super long viewership. It's like 10,000 people watched for 40 minutes. I don't see that ever happening on YouTube, because usually if you have a video that blows up to have 10,000 views, a lot of those are 15-second views of people tuning in and deciding they don't like it. So the fact that that average view time was like 40 minutes is insane. That means tons of people watched it for 3.5 hours, and very few watched it so shortly that it brought the average down. So if you go back and look at that video, you're going to see a lot of other really good examples of how the psychology of being in a bear market and starting with nothing and working really hard can pay off if you're in the market long enough. It's all about time in the market, not timing the market. It's a really good quote. So let's talk more about Celsius. I will get to the comments here. I don't have a huge time constraint today, I don't think. So I want to go on and keep presenting more of the information I've got here, and then we'll catch up with everybody. So I found this stream or this thread here from somebody on Twitter called Otter O. And this is somebody who's like reporting very in-depth from deep within the catacombs of crypto Twitter, is reporting on all of the problems that they're seeing with Celsius Network. Now, Celsius Network is something that was in the first year of Hex. There were a couple of influencers who were promoting both. And, the majority of people in the community didn't get into it, but some people did. Some people were bragging about Celsius went up a lot when Hex was going up a lot. Hex went up more, but some people had gotten into this. So I wanted to cover it just because this is a major thing that's happening, I think, in the crypto space. And I also bookmarked a couple of things that were kind of criticizing the conclusions that this person made. So to be clear, I can't tell you what to do with your Celsius coins. It's your choice. I'm going to report on this sliver that's created by this anonymous person who we have no idea what their intentions are, what trades they've placed. I can't tell you if it's right for you to sell the coins now or buy more of them or anything like that. It's none of my business what your financial decisions are, but I'm reporting from an informational point of view. I heard in the past week that right now is the all-time high number of longs and shorts that have ever been taken on Bitcoin. That is setting up for a really big thing. And I just this evening put these two things together, that might be what people are betting on, is whether Celsius will collapse, which would cause a huge it could cause a huge dip in Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else, right? Because that's what we saw with Luna, is that it created a bunch of short-term instability in the market. So it says here, Celsius Network will be insolvent by the end of 2022. This is from 3 days ago, and users still with deposits locked will be forced into a bail-in. This person is saying the confidence interval for that they're suspecting is 75%. And here's 12 reasons why. First, a bail-in is when an entity forces its users to withdraw less money than when it deposited. This typically happens when the entity has zero way of repaying back all it owes. Gives an example of the country of Cyprus back in 2012. They were over leveraged with their banks, and 48% of all uninsured deposits were forcibly seized. Here are 12 reasons why this user Otter predicts an insolvent Celsius network will conduct a forced bailout on its users by the end of 2022. Number one is market conditions. In a bear market like we're in now, yields are low because there's less people using leverage and less people borrowing. Business models like Celsius start to break since they can no longer find the high yield that they were promising to the depositors. Other supposedly more legit competitors in the centralized DeFi space, such as BlockFi, their funding round, them trying to go public, went from a $3 billion valuation to a $1 billion valuation just recently. Like this week. Number two reason is liquidity issues. Celsius used to allow flexible redemptions. For example, anybody could withdraw their funds and they would just lose their interest. No wonder we see some people emergency unstaking Hex. They might think that it works the way that Celsius does, which is you're not really time locking. You're not really locking up your funds. In Hex, if you lock up your funds for 15 years, you can't take them out the next week. That's a feature, not a bug. And it's voluntary. You don't have to do it. If you want to benefit from the high price, from the positives and negatives, if you want to take a gamble on the short-term price of Hex, then you can do that. But you're going to pay the inflation rate. And that's where the money comes from to pay the people who are time locking. Hex does not rely on externalities in order to fund the interest that it pays in Hex. in the Hex currency. Celsius does not generate its return, its yield from people delaying gratification and people paying an inflation rate, right? So that's the difference. The difference is in Celsius, you're expecting to get the value of whatever coin you're depositing with them. You're expecting to get those same number of coins back. In Hex, when you deposit whatever dollars or any other crypto, when you deposit that and turn it into Hex and then turn the Hex into shares that are time locked, like, that, you're hoping that you don't get the same number of coins back that you started with. You're hoping that you get more of whatever currency you traded for Hex. So if it was dollars, you hope you get more dollars because the value of Hex is appreciated and the number of tokens that you have has generated yield. But that yield comes from everybody else's dilution, who's having the ability to sell right away and to sell the tips. If you're locked, you can't sell when the price goes up a lot. If the price did a 200x from here right away, if somebody came in with $100 million and bought up the price, did a 200x, and you're time locked, you just time locked for 15 years a couple days ago, you don't get to access that crazy wealth. Sorry, but you get paid something by the people who are able to capitalize on that. You get paid more Hex. So Celsius, now this is crazy. It says that Celsius has 73% of its ETH locked up in staked ETH on the ST ETH protocol or staked in ETH2, which will make it inaccessible for withdrawals until post-merge and more. Supposedly, Celsius has been using shady mining operations. They've been investing significant portion of user funds in crypto mining operations, and that sector has been performing terribly. And so it doesn't seem like they can get the money out of this anytime soon. What's worse is that it looks like because the funds are locked up, they're trying to fix that by rushing an IPO in a very bad market. The fact that Coinbase IPO'd and is down 71% in 2022 means that the environment is very poor for them to be able to offload that, and they might not be able to get what they put into it, which is the whole point of the problem. If they try to IPO their mining operations, it could be the situation where they can't. If anybody watched the We Crashed miniseries on Apple Plus TV that I recommended earlier this week, like, if you haven't checked it out, it's amazing acting. It's a really awesome story. I've already watched it like twice. It's with Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway. WeWork got shut down from IPOing at the time, and they were worth $60 billion or $100 billion, right? And then they were worth much less. So supposedly Celsius Network lost $70 million in a stake hound hack. They lost $50 million in a Badger DAO hack. And they probably also lost money in the Luna crash, although it seems like they got most of their money out. They've done something called forced hodl mode for some of their users because they're experiencing a bank run. To slow things down, they've gone against their promises and placed people on a restricted mode where you have to contact support in order to get your money out. Now, what we've seen in this thread is that there are some people who said that it wasn't any problem for them to get their money out recently. Other people said it was. It took a month for them to get even one Bitcoin out. Another alleged thing on this thread says that Celsius borrows funds to repay customers. They've borrowed close to $100 million to repay their users' withdrawals so far. If Celsius is solvent, why would it need to borrow money? Borrowing also means that its positions now have a liquidation price. This other tweet by somebody else shows that over the last 30 days, Celsius borrowed at least, over the past 30 days, Celsius borrowed at least 76 million USDC and 18 million USDT to pay withdrawals. This is 29% of total sent out from known Celsius hot wallets that were $327 million of withdrawals. Why is Celsius borrowing to pay customers back? Well, we know why. It's because they put all their money into things that got hacked and the mining operations. And, further down, it's going to talk about Machinsky like lying, which I reported on a couple weeks ago, that Celsius was having problems. So if you've been following me closely, you know that it's been shady ever since really we found out about Luna. This is the next thing that everybody had on their minds that might bust. There's an ongoing bank run. People who withdraw last are the people who lose money. It literally does not pay to be last. Based on Celsius's own data, they would have more than $2 billion of outflow so far. Any user still stuck in may hodl mode for a decade. Then here's a bunch of statistics on how many registrations, what their inflows are, what their outflows are. Just in 3 days, it looks like their inflows were just under 200 million, and their outflows were about 500 million. So they're really getting a lot of BTC and ETH withdrawn. And then we look at the week before that, the inflows were just under 200 billion and the outflows were just above 350 million. You can tell us the week before that, and I think this goes back to the Luna crash. It was the outflows were 1.15 billion with inflows of only just under 400 million. So there it is right there, talking about the 1.9 billion in outflows over the last 4 weeks. Then we look at this graph of inflows and outflows, and it's I don't follow that as easily. Maybe that's in billions. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's run by shady people. There was some issue with Machinsky, who's the founder, working previously with an advisor to a company who had been arrested or something. Former Celsius executive Jessica Catter was a porn star before she joined the company. This person said they do believe in second chances, but do not believe in putting their net worth with convicted fraudsters in the case of Moshe Hagag. This is the thing that I think also sets out a major difference between Hex and Celsius, is that the CEO, Machinsky, and his wife, they're dumping the Celsius token. They dump sell tokens all while claiming to be buying. I did a review of that tweet previously. On-chain data does not lie. Yeah. So they were doing something like selling millions of dollars and then buying back a smaller fraction of that and then saying that they're buying the dip when overall they've been selling the whole time. Look at the price of Celsius in the past year. Obviously, insider dumping. How do sellers find coins to sell? Because it's the pre-miners. It's down an amazing 91% so far in USD terms. Richard Hart has never sold a coin. The origin address, daughter addresses controlled 97% of liquid Hex. Incredible. Melftoni says the T-share rate is a 22.7 thousand hex for one day T-share, but it's a third of the price if you do a 15-year T-share. A much better deal if you're wanting the ultimate impulsivity insurance, as the title says. What's up, Joe Hexotic? The person who helped me start this show. Shout out to you. Hex price is so low. Melftoni is giving us the T-share rate from now on so we don't get bummed out. Beautiful. Hex Live, shout out to you as well. And Bitfinesse. 8-pin on the dips. Dollar cost average on the pips. And hold through the rips. You're a good example of that. Point number 11 in this thread says, you are the lender, not the depositor. The entire thread I've been using the term depositors when in fact, according to the terms and conditions of Celsius, users are loaning their coins to Celsius. Depositing into Celsius is more an unsecured loan to an unregulated company than a deposit like a bank. Their terms and conditions won't let you forget this, at least in the UK version. Point 12, Celsius manipulates its books by manipulating sell token prices to make its balance sheet look much better than it actually is. And then here's a tweet that gives proof of that from May 12th. The recommendation from this anonymous poster, who's obviously a Bitcoin maxi by their profile picture, I shouldn't say obviously, but at first glance, A, withdraw all assets from Celsius. Save yourself and your net worth first, then spread the word to friends to get them to save their net worth. Tell them an investigative otter who foretold the Luna death spiral told you so. It's a very Twitter thing to say. And then they point to a May 9th tweet that they had suggesting that UST will depeg with a less confidence interval than they have here for Celsius. Interesting. Short Celsius on FTX has many more cons than it does pros. Shorting Celsius on FTX in a different contract also has a lot of cons versus pros. There's a full write-up here. This is a funny tweet. Basic human needs, bear market is at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. Hey, we were just talking about Maslow. He was the guy with the hammer and nail quote. So anyway, they're facing a liquidity crisis. There's an even longer thread here that talks about what a liquidity crisis is. So anyway, Hex is different. The founder in Hex isn't selling. Maybe you should consider doing the same. Or if you want to sell, you can suffer the ups and downs while other people are creating a staking ladder that allows them to dollar cost out over time and to pay your future self and to get your impulsivity in check. Impulsivity really refers to doing things without thinking or doing things using only the emotional circuits in your mind that shut down your prefrontal cortex. Now, what's the other way that people can improve the functioning of your prefrontal cortex other than all that difficult stuff like sleeping better, eating better, getting more exercise, controlling anger, surrounding yourself with positive people, places, and things, giving yourself positive pep talks. Those are all skills that for most people don't become habits overnight. And for most people, it takes so much motivation for them to really create all of those healthy habits. And then it takes even more design decisions for people to maintain that over a long period of time. omega-3 it's the opportunity for you to do something that takes very little effort that will have a huge impact, and it will make all of the other things, all of the other goals that you have, it will make them much easier to achieve. And so I do have a link in the description below just to give you an idea of what it looks like to get a bottle of omega-3 pills. For me, it made a life-changing difference in my ability to think clearly, plan. In almost every area of my life, I was able to improve because, it's the first thing that I got right was improving the functioning, the neuroanatomy of my prefrontal cortex. You see, omega-3, it's the material that your brain needs in order to insulate the electrical wires in your brain, especially in your prefrontal cortex. So 25% of the weight of your brain is supposed to be omega-3. If you don't get enough of this in your diet, and if you're not taking blood thinning medications, then for most people, it's normal to introduce that into your diet. It's not even medical advice. It's not, it's not even a risk necessarily. And I should always say to consult your doctor and not me, somebody on YouTube who's telling you about my own experience and using free speech, not therapy advice, not financial advice, not medical advice. This is something you could buy yourself for $5 or $6. Maybe with inflation, it's $10 at your local grocery store or Walmart or wherever, your pharmacy, anywhere. When you take omega-3, it will only take, when you take it once a day with food, whatever the prescribed dose is, I usually start with 1,000 milligrams per day with food for a week, then 2,000 milligrams a day after that, if I'm not consuming omega-3 from fish or other sources. And it only takes 1 to 4 weeks to have a noticeable difference. Like you will wake up one day or you'll have an aha moment and you'll realize suddenly, wow, I didn't realize how I wasn't thinking clearly before. For me, I was very successful in graduate school without taking omega-3, but taking it put me on the next level. So if you've heard me talk about this before, you haven't tried it yet, now's the time to set the reminder on your phone, to put it on your grocery list, to run to the store right now, and get started with a simple behavior change that will unlock the power of all your other behavior changes after that. And it's, Hex being your smart contract and omega-3 being your basis for healing your brain from the poor conditions of our current food system. These are ways that you can probably do like exponentially better at life. That's what I want for people. I'm going to share my screen to make the next announcement here. Big Kurkowski is organizing a Hex meetup that I'm attending next week in Chicago. Yep, next week. So 6 days from now, it's going to be on Wednesday, the 15th of June. He's going to be throwing out the first pitch at the Cubs game in full Hex gear. How amazing. What an awesome promotion that he's doing, sacrificing his own money and time and likeness in order to go on national television and show off what Hex has done for him. Here's a blog post I made with all the details so more people can come. Huge thanks to Big K. Let me drop the tweet here. So this goes to my Medium blog. Drop that too. There's going to be a meetup directly before the game at a location across the street from the stadium that's called 365-VIII. There's going to be live music there. It starts at 2:00 p.m. The Chicago Cubs baseball game after this pre-party meetup is going to be against the San Diego Padres. Here's the address of the bar/music venue that it's going to be held at. There's a $10 suggested donation for a local nonprofit. Again, shout out to Big K for putting this on and apparently hooking it up. You'll have to follow your own instructions on how to get general admission bleacher seat tickets on StubHub or SeatGeek or wherever you might find them. The game starts at 7:00 p.m. I think tickets are only like 10 or 20 or $30. So it's a pretty affordable situation here. I'll be there. Art Morikawa, the person who donated $2 million to an animal shelter, Big Kurkowski. I think a bunch of other people are going to be there too. I just didn't want to call them out. And then here's some pictures from our previous Hex meetups. Here's the one we did at the end of May. Here's the giant hexpo.vegas that we did that I organized, the hexconference.com. Here's Abit and myself and the people who put on the tour at a Chicago Bulls game, also a Chicago event, so seemed relevant. And so you can check out all the information there. I will not have the DeLorean with me there. I am can't put too many miles on that baby. I'll keep using it for promotional situations, but it's been a lot of traveling with that thing. I took it all the way from Illinois to Florida. Drove it on a trailer, then took it all the way to Las Vegas from Florida, then took it all the way from Las Vegas back to Florida to Miami, then took it all the way to Illinois, then all over the place. So I apologize about that if anybody thought that they would have a chance to see it, but there will be plenty more opportunities, I suspect. Let me get to the comments here, and shout out to everybody who's been watching. Please, please, please hit the like and subscribe button if you're getting value out of this, and you're somebody who might come back and want to see more content. It brightens my day and gets me closer to my personal goal of 10,000 subscribers on YouTube who are all getting value out of the channel. You can see the value of the channel when there are channels out there that have 100,000 subscribers and they only get 1,000 views per video. And here on this channel, thanks to everybody who supports, cross promotes, comes on, thanks to the viewers, it's like thousands of people watching each week between Game Theory Gang on Tuesdays and Hex Therapy on Thursdays. Melv Tony, Lazy Hexakin, what's going on, everybody? Jerry working late. Monica Mofit Meals, what's up? Uncle Larry. Let's see, DB Cooper. Flat Earth Underground. Hexdex, what's going on? Good to see you too. Melv Tony, Hex is at 5.2 cents. I'm not used to it, says Bitfinesse, but I'm using the FPS monkey board right now. Thank you, Maddie. I was in somebody else's live stream. I was in the chat, and I realized that Bitfinesse was wishing that he had an easier way to type on his phone keyboard, and I suggested that he could use a Bluetooth keyboard with his phone, and he loved the idea. So I saw a picture that he posted today on Twitter of him with this mini keyboard that he has now, that it should make it easier for him to type in the comments, which I know he loves to do. Fossman keyboard, right on. User named Y. Great stream, Maddie. You're an important asset to Hex, PLS, and PLSX. Thank you. Appreciate it. What airdrops? What airdrops was I talking about this long ago? Oh, what did I get? Hedron, Pulse Dogecoin. I mean, I got multiple Uniswap airdrops. I got major ENS airdrops. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for sure. The ENS airdrop just ended about a month ago, so that's no longer available, unfortunately. Hex Deck 16, the Prosperity Project. It's part of your username now. That sounds interesting. When Magic Carpet Ride? I suspect it'll be sometime in the next 4 to 5 years, or 0 to 5 years. How about that? I really think onboarding millions of people is going to make a big difference when Pulse Chain launches. I think that Pulse Chain could be 6 months away, could be longer, could be shorter. Again, long-term mindset, even when it sucks and it's not fun and we all had our hopes up, right? Let the weekend slip. That's right. Thanks, Maddie, for the consistency of streaming for Hexicans. My pleasure. Seriously, it seems like all I watch is Hex stuff. Mr. D Farm. Thanks, Maddie, for the alpha. My pleasure. Warped Impulse. What's up, Maddie? Good to see you there. Thomas Turner. We have an unheard of way of wealth growth without influence. Yurdle the Turtle. Maddie, can you please explain the thing you said from the other day about the stakers ranking system, i.e. a crab is actually a dolphin? That would be a good thing to go over. I'm glad you asked. That's an excellent question. I get pumped up when people ask really good questions. I am going to see if it's possible for me to pull up some of the tweets that I've already created on this. And hopefully this also teaches you how to search. I can't find it right away. Here we go. Cool. That was fast. Okay. I'm getting better at searching, which could save all of you tons of time and effort and unlock knowledge that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So let me share my screen again here. Did you know? I learned this from just observing Richard. Did you know that on Twitter, you can search for a keyword and then put a space and then put from, FROM, colon, and then no space, and then the username that is your handle. So your display name, in my case, is a robot muscle emoji, and then Maddie all.in, and then a brain emoji, and then hextherapy.live. That's not what you're putting in here. What you're putting in is the handle, which is at Maddie ALLin, no space. And so when I put from colon Maddie ALLin, no space, then I can pull up all the tweets where I have mentioned that word dolphin. And here I was easily able to find my tweet from so long ago, 3, 4, 5 months ago, or whatever, maybe a couple months only. It's been a long couple of months, hasn't it? So here, what does it say here that I put? So somehow I found on the internet a picture of a kid's book called The Crab Who Wanted to Be a Dolphin. Now, let's back it up a little bit, talk about like, what is the league system in the first place anyway? So Steph from a staker app, who's a supposed hex whale, those are really rare. There's only like, 10 or 15 hex whales in the entire system. A whale is somebody, Steph is the one who created the league system, and it's a way to break down what percentage of all the hex shares that exist do you have at this moment. And this is a system that came out probably around the 6-month mark from when Hex was released, and that was going into the second 6-month period where Hex existed, where it became really important to time lock your crypto before the big payday occurred, because that was the big moment where you could get diluted a lot if you didn't time lock at least for a couple days. Could get diluted like 30, 40%, something like that. So the Hex League system taught a lot of us in Hex like how valuable shares are. Before that, not everybody realized how valuable shares were. And so, I mean, that totally changed the history of Hex, and like all the users changed a lot of people's lives, what Steph did. Super incredible, actually. Shout out to him. I mean, like, I'm very impressed with him. I got to spend time with him in Kiev before the war broke out there. And that gave me a really good chance to see what a good character Steph has. Anyway, he came up with a league system. Let me find, I at least have a picture of the old league system, I think, here. So we can really do a comprehensive look at what this means. Oh, I could just search. No, not showing up. I used to have it as my desktop profile for a long time. Oh, there we go. I know where it is. Here we go. So I'm going to share my screen. This is the old system before turtles existed. So even those of you who understand the league system completely, maybe you don't remember when the system, or you haven't seen in a while, when it was pre-turtle days. So this is the original kind of like system that Steph put out. Now, the reason I have Super Shark highlighted in this screenshot that I took, I have no idea. I'm not a Super Shark. I wish I was, but don't take that as some sort of like some kind of indication of what league I am. But a Poseidon is somebody who controls 10% of the total shares in the system. A whale is somebody who controls 1%. In a lot of financial markets, people use the term whale to mean somebody who's so big that they can move the market, and a huge holder. Steph went ahead and created a bunch of other animal leagues, each with a order of magnitude fewer shares, which it still turns out to be a huge amount of shares. And I'm going to go over why this is the case to answer the original question, but I wanted to give the background here too. So a super shark controls 10 times less the number of shares than a whale does, and a dolphin is 10 times less than that. And then you've got a squid, and then the octopus turned into a turtle, I think, and then it's a crab after that, and then a shy shrimp at the end, and a silent shell is like very few. So this is actually what the system was based on to airdrop Pulse Dogecoin to people. And it rewarded the dolphins the most, and then gave sharks and squids about the same, and gave whales and turtles about the same, I think. And cool crabs even made out pretty well. So let's go back to the tweet now. So this is really incredible, like what this means, because remember, the user-controlled Hex is only 3% of the total liquid Hex that exists. The majority is held by the origin address, by the OA, which is presumably Richard. And so that's incredible that somebody who has never sold controls 97% of the supply, which means that in liquid Hex terms, if we're accounting using that instead of shares, just for the time being, it's like 30 times more rare, approximately, than it seems if you just looked at the total supply. And so the origin address, what controls? Then the origin address has like 13% of the staked Hex about. And so maybe the numbers aren't that extreme, but what I want to point out is if you look up in this tweet that I've got, I can drop a link to the tweet here too. Because people didn't like, if you look at the comments of this tweet, like people were hating on it when it came out. Like, I don't know why, but I think people just thought it was an extraordinary statement, that it was too good to be true and that sort of thing. So I said, no, really look it up. The top 1,000 Bitcoin addresses are whales, and Hex is designed to outperform. So when I say Hex crabs are the new Bitcoin dolphins, haters can suck it. Leagues are based on share of the total supply, not the current fiat value. Few understand to value wealth in shares. So wonder if I said anything about turtles. Here we go. Again, search function saves us. Turtles are the new sharks, thanks to the OA. I've got a picture of a turtle turning into a shark. Brilliant. See, now that got 173 likes. I'm going to like it and bring it up to 174. I'll drop that in the chat too. Bitcoin sharks felt like turtles 2.5 years in, but Hex is designed to vastly outperform that. See? I was putting all kinds of stuff out there back in April. Okay, and then that's an advertisement. Cool. So the reason why the staker ranking system could be a little bit off is because the OA accounts for so much of the stake tax and the liquid Hex that exists. You know, in Bitcoin, it's just liquid Bitcoin, right? That's all they have. So, and the people who are staked are not outperforming the dormant coins, right? You have to keep putting more money in. Whereas in Hex, you just time lock longer and you get a greater share of the liquid Hex supply, essentially, once yours becomes liquid. So I hope that explains a little bit better why I said that whatever league system you're in, you're probably 1 or 2 leagues higher. So what is it? So that means if you're a turtle, you might really be a shark. If you're a dolphin, you might really be a whale. If you're a whale, I mean, you're just a way fatter whale than you thought. If you're a crab, you're essentially really in the squid category. And yeah, that's just incredible. Wait, I'm sorry. A turtle, maybe a turtle wouldn't be a dolphin in this case. So maybe I have that a little bit confused. But at the end of the day, the reason why we brought it up on Game Theory Gang was because Gunther and David and I were all brainstorming about how the league system could be improved or like updated based on the Hex audit that showed which 3,000 addresses were circumstantially linked to the origin address. I think that there are lots of ways that it could be updated. Another way that we could take into account what your future rank will be, it would be based on when everybody's shares are ending relative to yours. So if you go into Hex right now, and this is a really cool thing for people to understand. If you go into Hex now, you could become a crab for a couple $1,000. I think if a crab has at least 1 T-share, you could become a crab, let's say, for a couple $1,000. And your status would, you know, potentially end. Let's say if you staked for a year, you could be a crab for a couple K now. And when you get to the end of the year, then you might not be able to buy back the whole T-share because you didn't stake for the duration that was the average, 6.6 years. So you're getting diluted a little bit in the amount of shares that you can get relative to the total number of shares that exist. However, if somebody comes along and they pay 1/3 of that $2,000 and get a 15-year stake, you can be a crab with 1 T-share, and then you stay a crab for 15 years, getting more and more hex paid to you every day. And so by the end of your 15-year stake, then you can buy more than 1/10.5 millionth of the number of shares. Because right now there's about 10.5 million T shares. So if you buy 1 T share and you have that for 15 years, which is longer than the average of 6.6 years or whatever it is at that time, which it could go up to 10 years by that point, or it could go down. It could go down to 5 years or something. You will then, if you're staking longer, you will be then average, you will be able to buy more than 1/10.5 millionth of the supply of shares. You might not be able to buy back a whole T share, but the total number of T shares might be in the single digit millions of that. I mean, it definitely will be in the single digit millions by then, because even if everybody restakes, the T share rate climbs higher every day or almost every day. And so that's to simulate compounding interest. And it's to make sure that longer stakes always pay better. T shares are deflationary in the system and Hex is inflationary. And those mathematical functions, they're related to each other to balance the system out, to transfer wealth from the short-term thinkers to the long-term thinkers. So it's good news that if you've been looking at your staker league rank and you're somebody who is even staked at all, your rank is probably higher than you think because of the OA having more than 10% of the shares in the system. You're at least 12% higher, whatever the OA has, like 13% of the staked hex. So you're at least 13% higher than you think you are. But if you consider how everything plays out in the future, that's you're really in how much hex you can have relative to how much hex exists and how many shares you have relative to how many shares exist. The longer you're staked, your rank is actually much higher because the OA is diluting itself, because everybody staked less than you is not accruing as much interest as you are, while the T-share rate goes up. So you're maintaining your position in the system if you're staking longer than the ultimate average when your stake comes out. I know I keep saying that over in a lot of different ways, but I find that it really helps people grasp it at a deeper level, whether you're new or you've been around a long time. It's helpful to work it out all the different ways that we know the math plays out in this system. It's in the end, it's simple. It's guaranteeing you compound interest in hex terms. In being paid in hex tokens, you're always going to get more for staking longer than average. Now, so yeah, some people might even be 2 leagues higher. Now, there is a way that you can roughly calculate what your rank is compared to everybody else, at least who's in the system now. Because if you're, let's say, crab number 5,000 and the person who's crab number 4,999 is only staked for a few days and you're staked for 15 years, well, we already know that you're going to outperform that person. And we could calculate, even if they completely changed their behavior, they might barely be able to catch up with you. And if we calculated more of an average behavior where some people improve and some people don't, what we're going to find is that your share of the future compound interest it's going to be way more than people who are staking short term. And while we can't calculate the exact share that you'll have of the total system in the future, we could narrow down. We could potentially give people more accurate leagues. This is, I think, conservative. However, I still want to point out how revolutionary and it was life-changing for me. I think a lot of people should thank Steph if you've benefited. His Twitter is 0x Steph, STEF. I mean, Discourse Syndicate, myself, very few people, even hexologists, everybody says that they didn't understand how powerful T-shares were until the league system came out. So, we can all thank Steph for that. But if somebody out there who's good with data can work with me or with Gunther or anybody else to crunch some numbers, I would love to be able to do a better job of modeling that into the future, because Hex it's the only system where you have a market, you have a chart of future market supply, because you can see when everybody's stake is coming out. You can go to hex.vision, which was created by Steph's partner, Firebun, and Steph working together, I believe. And you could see when everybody's stake is coming out. And they're coming out at all different times. Yeah. So maybe I slipped and said a crab is really a dolphin. Maybe I should have said that a crab is really a squid. If you're a crab with a staking average that's more than the average. Bear markets come and go, but in reality, the goal was to save people from fiat collapse. And in Hex, we're doing it much better than the prototype called Bitcoin. I think the lessons we experienced are priceless. That's a really good comment, CI. What else needs to happen for you to understand Richard is cashing out? Yeah, Richard is cashing out of Bitcoin because he called the top, and he got to buy Bitcoin for $30, and then he dumped it on your head at 69K. So yeah, he cashed out. Good for him. I cashed out too, of much of my Bitcoin positions and Ethereum positions at that time, because Richard told me to. So I don't think that after so many top and bottom calls that he nailed perfectly, I don't think that he would not follow his own advice, although I know he doesn't talk about which coins he buys and sells, probably for security reasons, because we know he got jumped in Panama before. So yeah, he's cashing out, but not in Hex. The OA audit, it shows that he hasn't sold a single coin. So show me another investment that's been around for 2.5 years, that it has so much awareness on crypto Twitter. Maybe it doesn't have so much adoption, but it's worth billions of dollars, and the founder hasn't sold anything. I'll wait while you try to tell me that. Here's the old copy of the OA audit. I need to go back and screenshot what the update was that Gunther showed us on the show on Tuesday. But if you take a screenshot of that, then I could format it a little bit better. Oh, no, it doesn't want to show the bottom. There we go. Take the screenshot now. Well, I guess all it's showing at the bottom is 100% of user staked Hex, which you can deduce from the other two numbers there. Anyway, Richard is cashing out, and yeah, it was a $3,300 tracksuit, and he posted a video of him twerking, and he got what we calculated earlier in the show, $1.6 million worth of free advertising. That's pretty cool. I hope that your founder does that someday and learns from Richard. That'd be cool. Satoshi didn't figure that out. So it's fine. We're all here to hopefully learn. Thin Air J, Maddie always helps me keep things real. Appreciate the time you give us. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the kind words. Chris J Hex, yo, what is up? Oh, I saved the best for last. I almost forgot about it. I do this sometimes where I accidentally save the best for last. I think it's kind of a good strategy. Not to say that I'm logging off right away, but this was something I was supposed to present and then I forgot. It is hexsearch.io. This is nuts. Let me share my my tweet about this. Too many notifications. Shout out to everybody like pumping the information out here on Twitter. Okay, here we go. Copy. So share screen again. So this is a new tool that came out today. It blew my mind. Okay. This tool blew my mind. You should use it. It's called hexsearch.io. And it was created by a presumed hexagon named CAJ62 at CAJ622. And that's it's somebody who's a multilingual software engineer and it has created the domain name hexsearch.com. Give that person a follow because they are crushing it. Here I said, hexagons rejoice. This person has created a brilliantly powerful tool where you can instantly find a direct link to anything Richard Hart has said on YouTube. Imagine how well we can spread the word with YouTube's clip function. Mind blown emoji. Hexsearch.io, give it a try. And then I suggest searching the term ALLin, no space. And let's do just that because this is really what blew my mind. Here's the website. It looks pretty clean, looks super clean. It says that there are 80 videos indexed. Now, I would predict that something like this that is coming out of the blue. I tried to create something like this, I should say, like not too long ago, like a month ago. I was like paying Sticker Guy to try to like go through and start indexing the transcript of what Richard said. But the reason why I'm so impressed by this is because I think this person did a way better job than I could have ever done. So if we search ALLin, this is incredible. It pulls up the results where the transcription found every instance where Richard said my name, Maddie ALLin, but even though the transcription found it as ALLen, searching in this website for ALLin brought up those different spellings. My mind is blown. And it's 100% accurate. These are the 5 or 6 times or however many times Richard has said my name in his live streams on his channel. It's not just that it shows you which episode he said. And I mean, somehow either Richard has never said the words ALLin, not meaning my last name, but like being all in on a crypto or something. Either he hasn't said that or it just picked up so well that it knew ALLin should pull up all the ALLens. So again, I'm just super impressed by the precision of this tool. So I click on this link here and it automatically pulls up in YouTube the exact moment at 49 minutes and 13 seconds into this hour and 40-minute stream where Richard said my name. Our community has done a video on it. His name is Maddie ALLin. He's a substance abuse counselor. And yeah, so then he's talking about his free self-help books. But I think in that case, he was talking about my contribution to discussing Sun Well syndrome, right? So hexsearch.io allows you to find, with, in this case, great precision clips of things that Richard has said. And you don't have to just search my name. I just picked that because it was such an extreme example to me of something that shouldn't have been correctly classified. It should have not returned anything for ALLin with no space, but instead it picked out all the times that it said something phonetically similar. So that's incredible. And I haven't, I just found out about this before I went live, and so I haven't tried it for anything else. I dropped the tweet already in there into the live stream, but I'll put the direct URL here, hexsearch.io. You could search for Amazon. You could search for the word Amazon and find all the times Richard talked about Amazon doing a 95% drop and then becoming the number one, online commerce producer. Yeah, look at this. So here's tons and tons and tons of pages, page after page. In this live stream, oh, he said amazing. So amazing is coming up as Amazon. Okay, so maybe not 100% perfect, but still, I'm super impressed. And I can just search using my search function for Amazon, and it won't pull up all the amazings. It'll just pull up the Amazon. And you can pick which live stream you want to go to. Click on the link. It's going to take you directly to that moment. In this case, an hour and 13 minutes in is when he mentions Amazon. Imagine what our community can do with this incredibly powerful tool. I could search conference. I could find all the times Richard talked about the conference. Talking about Bitcoin conferences that he's been to with Roger Ver, right? I can click on it and it's going to go directly to when they were talking about when they went to the Tokyo, was at a Tokyo Bitcoin conference, right? And if I wanted to make a compilation of all the times Richard was talking about going to OG Bitcoin conferences and other people were, agreeing that they saw him there and it was early days and that sort of thing. Imagine how this tool could be used. And I want to also show you this function right here that it has to be enabled by the creator. In this case, Richard has turned on his YouTube channel the ability to hit the clip button. And anybody who's a viewer on YouTube who has their own account, that means that you have your own channel, even if you don't promote it, but it shows up as such. And maybe you have to click to like make it searchable or something, but you can create clips. Then you can share them on Twitter, and they are only a minute long. But imagine when people are hating on Twitter, you can go into a thread and you could bring up the times when Richard talked about Celsius, and you could almost instantly link people, or you could create a clip and that could get a bunch of views, and you could create your own YouTube channel without showing your face, just showing all the different compilation videos you can make of Richard talking about things. Again, like I'm so impressed with this tool. I think it's going to be a game changer for us. I wish I could have created it, but I'm super grateful to the person who did. Shout out to you. And that you'll find that in the About section, you can donate to their Ethereum address. I'll probably donate a little bit, even though we're in a terrible bear market. I'll probably donate a little bit to show my support for this person creating this amazing tool. Go watch the Hex conference. Hey, that's cool. Yeah. So imagine all you can do with this tool, hexsearch.io. Insane. Can't wait to read the comments for that, but I'm going to go through. Looks like people have mostly just been listening and don't have a million comments this week to get through. Bender, hey, what's going on? Yes, I agree. 5 months after we rally hard into 2023, also stocks will move up after October is over, and the SPY index will rise up to 500 plus area into 2023. Hex is Bitcoin, but faster, says QC Organics. Let's see. Good evening, Hexicans. 400,000 views for that Richard Hart twerking video. That is correct. Joe O'Brien, 2 thumbs up. Thank you. Stay patient, friends, says Thomas Turner. How much did that peacock cost? 1.5 mil? Oh, that Richard was dancing in front of? It seems like he came across that randomly. That I don't think he had to pay for that. there was also some like random woman like yelling in the background. So I think it may have been a public place. The man's cheap, got himself a bargain. Yeah, $1.6 million worth of Twitter impressions if you had to pay for it, and got it for free. CPM equals cost per mile, so cost per 1,000 views. Yeah, so if it's, so it's, oh, so did I get that completely backwards? Is it $3.50 for 1,000 views? Then it's not $1.6 million worth of advertising, but still a lot of views. Sorry if I got that wrong. So it's only $1,400 worth of advertising. Well, I got it wrong. My bad. I think because it's not a paid promotion, it is going to hit a little bit different. So maybe it's not worth millions, but I would say it's worth more than he paid for the tracksuit. And I'm super grateful that he wasn't dumping Hex to pay for it, according to the Hex audit. Don't set it and forget it. That's how I messed up, fell out of the loop with the community, and it's important to stay up to date on your favorite cryptos. Hey, well, hopefully that's what I'm here for. Hopefully I'm helping people with that. David Morales will be in Chicago for the Big K event on the 15th. I can't wait to see you there, David. I'm so glad to hear you're going. I imagine that there are lots of other people going too. Every day I feel like something exciting is going to happen. Feelings of being lucky, or maybe that donut is calling. There you go. Rothko, smash the legs. Hexakin coin. You're awesome, Maddie. Hey, thanks. Tea time. That's awesome, Maddie. RH was right about FTX. Going to drive a generation to suicide because of margin trading. Great idea, Maddie. Thank you. Yep, I'm, doing the suicide prevention campaign, and paying people a small amount of money, airdropping people out of my own personal bag to to do your own suicide prevention plan, your safety plan, and to call the suicide hotline. Unfortunately, you can't call me. Unfortunately, you can't direct message me about suicidal problems because I can't respond on all the different platforms in a timely manner, and I'm not licensed in your state. But I'm all I can do is my best, and right now, what that means is, putting the survey and the blog post out there, so what number you can call in every different country that has a suicide hotline. I've got a link to it there, and that you'll be able to get 911 Pulse tokens in exchange for completing a 2 to 3 sentence safety plan. That's awesome, Maddie. Great work. Thank you. Substance abuse and mental health go hand in hand. Correct. Very, very true. That's what I found in practice. Because the substance abuse, it's a symptom of self-medication addressing, a deeper issue. Addiction doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes because people benefit. That's what self-medication means, is somebody's benefiting from substance use, whether it's numbing them from a trauma or alleviating their boredom, increasing their concentration with some drugs, right? But the reason why drugs are considered different than medications is because they have the power to turn badly in not a lot of time. That the cost of an addiction, often by definition, by medical definition, is interfering with your daily functioning at some point. And so if you are on the path to drinking yourself to death, or if you're drinking so much that you're ruining the relationships around you, or using any other substance, really, there's different degrees of impairment and the way that it affects people. For most people, when they start using a substance, it's because it's helping them in some way, and then their tolerance builds up, so they need more of the substance and they get less of a benefit over time. And then they're using in order to escape just simply the withdrawal effects of the substance itself. And so, of course, this creates a vicious cycle between mental health deteriorating and substance use increasing, which further deteriorates mental health. And so, again, omega-3 was a major way that I recommended to people to get them started. And also, the two greatest skills that I would start people with is avoiding triggers. And there's a lot of education that can go into like defining what a trigger is, to figure out what are the people, places, and things that are causing you to use, what environments are causing you to use, and how to replace those. It's not a simple task, but just at first avoiding the number one people, number one places, number one, situations and emotional states where you're using. That's incredibly important to avoid triggers. So that's a good starting point. And then staying busy with healthy activities is the other starting point that I give people. So those 2 points: stay busy with healthy activities and avoid triggers. Get somebody onto omega-369, and then take it from there, learning more advanced skills like self-esteem. Self-esteem is an action verb, in my opinion. It's not something that you have or you don't have, which is how we normally think of it, but it's something that you do. And when you do self-esteem as an action verb, that means that whether you think you need it or not, you start having that positive self-talk. And to esteem somebody, including yourself, what that means is that you're giving positive praise, you're complimenting, or you're speaking highly of yourself. It's just as easy. It's the same words that you would use with somebody else, but it takes prompting yourself to do it. And so I recommend that people set a reminder in their phone every day, or they attach it to some other behavior like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, or, opening the door on your way in or out for the day. Find some ritual to where you can attach that behavior of checking in with yourself, giving yourself a compliment. Sometimes searching for a list of positive words that expands your vocabulary so that you can get the right, the right words to express to yourself what's something positive that you can find. And you don't even have to believe the self-esteem in order to do it. And the point isn't for you to feel better at first. The point is to get better at feeling and to just do it. And so, even if you want to try it right now, right? Or whenever you hear my weekly stream, even if you do it once a week, if you praise yourself, speak highly of yourself. I am doing awesome at delaying gratification. I am doing a good job of taking care of myself in this particular way. I am smart. I'm happy. I'm, super good looking, right? Whatever you want to tell yourself, again, I want to emphasize, it doesn't matter if you think it's true. The reason it doesn't matter is because your beliefs about yourself, they are not generated by your current thinking. They're generated by your thinking over time. And so it would actually surprise me if somebody who benefited greatly from positive self-talk, which I think most people would benefit from that. It would surprise me if somebody who started doing that all of a sudden believed themselves. And this is something that, for me, it took lots of experience, spending hundreds, maybe thousands of hours talking with people about their true reactions to the therapy advice that I would give them, and truly listening to people for me to even realize that this was a barrier for most people. Most therapists would recommend this activity without trying it themselves, without practicing what they preach, without realizing how flawed the advice is to like speak highly of how to esteem yourself. Is actually, most people run into the issue if they do try it. Most people wouldn't try it, but if they did try it, what they would run into is they would think to themselves, I don't really believe all these positive things about myself in this moment, so I'm just not going to do it, or it didn't work or something. Well, that's not the point of the exercise. And I can tell you how to change your beliefs about yourself. And it'll probably make sense, right? So changing your beliefs about yourself is what I like to call the recipe for this is walking the walk and talking the talk at the same time. What does that mean? So we just talked about talking the talk, which means esteeming yourself. So even when you don't believe it, right? And then walking the walk means utilizing self-care. So you do some behavior to take care of yourself. And there's a wide range of things that you can do as self-care behaviors. I used to hand out a list of like 50 or 100 different self-care behaviors. It's like, listen to your favorite song, go for a walk, eat a healthy meal, make your favorite meal, try on a new style, exercise, whatever it is that is accessible to you at the time, right? I would even, when I practiced this, I made for myself an emergent, emotional first aid kit with like a few materials to do healthy activities for myself when I would need it the most, which is when I would be able to have the least access to those behaviors. So for me, I like painting a room, like that's really weird. Most people don't like that, but it brings me like a super sense of calm and feeling good for some reason. So for me, in my emotional first aid kit, I had some materials to like paint a room. Like just having that on hand was way better than getting into, an emotional crisis and then having to having to calm down enough to go all the way to the store to get that, right? It would be like pretty inaccessible. Like there are other things that people, could put in their emotional first aid kit other than just that. But anyway, that's kind of a tangent. The point is, doing self-care, it's good on its own. So when you take care of yourself, it could be brushing your teeth even. That's self-care. It could even be something that you're already doing and you're not noticing it, right? So taking care of yourself behaviorally, that's a really good behavior. It can really improve your mental health. And speaking highly of yourself and esteeming yourself, it's a really good behavior. It can really improve your mental health. When you combine these things, when you walk the walk and talk the talk at the same time, it unlocks this whole other level of emotional health, because what you're doing is you're giving your brain in your subconscious beliefs, you're giving evidence that you're worth it because you're taking care of yourself and speaking well of yourself at the same time. So it's like, even if when you start, you don't believe that you're worth it, if you're doing something that provides evidence that you're worth it, and you're saying that you're worth it, that's how you actually change those deep-seated beliefs about yourself. And also, in my experience, it doesn't matter if you think you already have good self-esteem, or like you aren't bothered that much by depression, or your mood is generally up. Like these are things that can elevate all of us. It's a really good tool to have in your toolbox. So again, what worked for people, it seemed, was saying, "Hey Siri, like set a reminder every day for me to esteem myself." To esteem myself. Yeah. Okay. So I just did that. My phone was listening to me, like just created that for myself right now. Maybe your phone heard it too. I don't know. Apologies if you didn't want your phone to do that, and now it will be doing that. But either way, So you need a reminder, and you can do that by adding it to a behavior pattern already. Like every time I brush my teeth, I will compliment myself in the mirror. Or every time I prepare food for myself at home, I will take my omega-3, right? That's self-care. And it would be just fine to be taking your omega-3 mindlessly, instead of mindfully. You could be taking care of yourself, and it would be a net benefit to yourself, whether you noticed it or not. But again, the power of this technique that I'm explaining to you, to change your beliefs about yourself, is when you take care of yourself and esteem yourself at the same time. So you take your omega-3 with food every day, and you tell yourself, I'm doing this because I deserve to have a healthier brain, because I'm worth it. That's all you need to say. I deserve to brush my teeth. As simple as that is, I deserve it because I'm worth it. I deserve to have good oral health, right? Whatever it is that you want to recognize, the point is, the more you recognize those behaviors when you're doing them, the more you will change your beliefs about yourself to where you start to automatically or more subconsciously believe that you deserve good things. It brings lots of positivity to your life. It increases your energy level. It brings more motivation into the mix so that you can then solve other problems in your environment and in your own behavior, right? So I hope that this is a good example for those of you who made it this far into the episode. I hope that this is helpful, and it's something that you might try, whether it's just the self-care, just the omega-3, or maybe you've already tried that. And I know it always makes my day whenever I see multiple people commenting in the chat, I tried omega-3 and it worked. I noticed it. It's not like taking a vitamin that's just like theoretically better for your health, and like maybe it shows up on a blood test, like in years from now. But how did I really know how I would have done otherwise? It's like, this is noticeable. You're noticeably thinking more clearly. So whether it's just omega-3 that you're using, or whether you're using the whole tool set that I've presented tonight about omega-3, 6, 9, and combining walking the walk and talking the talk, self-care and self-esteem at the same time, it's worth it. Give it a try. This is your typical bear market. If you were in crypto in 2008, it was similar to right now. Once we get on the other side, that patience will be rewarded. I hope so. Dude, right on. Suicidal ideology is real. I've struggled, and now I have a pretty reliable strategy to stay well. I'm glad to hear that, Warped Impulse. Thanks for sharing. And I think it's, depression and suicidal ideation. These are things that come and go throughout people's lives and are fairly common. And again, every little thing that we can do to plan to take care of ourselves during those times, and or to let other people take care of us in a way that can still be healthy. For example, I had multiple clients who, in their relapse prevention plan that we would type out, we would spend like with hundreds of clients, I did this, we would type out exactly what they had learned in treatment, what they had started with and what they ended up learning throughout treatment, and how they could use all that in order to avoid relapse and to avoid what the underlying problem was as well, like how to get ahead of it next time. And for people who had suicidal ideation and depression, I was always really impressed when part of their plan was, I might observe that I'm like starting to isolate, or, whatever their trigger was, one of their triggers, right? I noticed that, I was having a difficult time with the different areas of my life, finances, relationships, right? Loneliness, boredom, whatever it is. just feeling down, physical problems, right? Could be any of those things, that they would catch those things early enough when their thinking started to turn negative that they could ask for help before they shut down further. And for a lot of people, that was the breakthrough that would change the pattern of them dipping back into these depressions and being able to go so low because they didn't have the support that they needed. They didn't, it's not always obvious, because part of being depressed means that you're not thinking or aware of everything that you could be. And so understanding when my awareness hits a certain level, I'm not going to be able to use it anymore, to back that up and to say, how, like what are the things I'm going to be able to notice? So for one client, it was that they didn't, if they didn't call anybody for 2 or 3 days, then that would be their identifier. That would be how they would know that they need to call somebody and say, like, I'm starting to get depressed. Like, what can we do? Right. And for a lot of people, whether originally that had been the counselor that they would call or a peer support, it was essential when I was working with clients to make it so the clients were not dependent on their therapist, and that they would have natural supports in their environment. So, we would, if somebody found it difficult to make friends as an adult, which is like most adults have difficulty making new friendships intentionally. Some people are lucky and they just get it right, or they're in an environment where it's easier to make friends. But normally it's easier for kids because they're always getting put into different situations in different classes, activities, that sort of thing. So even if somebody didn't already have all the social skills practiced that they needed, that would be one of the skills that they would learn in therapy. And then we would make sure that they would develop those either temporary, they could call their doctor, they could call their family member or a support friend, or they could go to a mutual help meeting, AA or NA, that sort of stuff. Like, people would have to have 2 or 3 supports in order to graduate the program. And again, is so critical to have a prevention plan that includes catching the depression and the lack of awareness before it gets to the point where it's impossible to catch yourself, and then you've lost control. So hopefully that's helpful for some people out there who are wanting to make changes in their mood and make their behaviors and moods more predictable. Is that you need to know when to take action when the kind of like the upcoming mood is going to be too much and it's going to be too late to ask for help. You want to catch it before it's too late. Really, a few bucks can turn a life around quick. So much stress due to fiat. Absolutely. Super Hex win. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Famous TikToker was watching. We've been around long enough to know that. Good work. Okay, I got that wrong. Audience definitely keeps me honest when I do a calculation wrong. That's why it's so helpful to be broadcasting. You can tell me when I present 10 things and I get one thing wrong, or 1 out of 20. People can let me know, and that's kind of cool in my opinion. I don't have to be right all the time. This is my first bear market, says Monica. Hex is my first crypto. I'm an investor. I intend to hold. Shout out to you. Melv Tony, Monica, you're so lucky that Hex is your first since 2017. I had over 30 different cryptos trying to find the right one, but with some of the others, I did very well. Hex is the best by far. Hexaking Greenhorn, steak and bake. Bitfinesse, I'm a Scorpion. It's in my nature. Okay, I'm not sure what that quote's from. Rothko, RH is currently using his measuring tape. Interesting. Rocking 911, you need to talk to Waters Above Crypto. I saw you get Tiger from people. I like what you're about. Thanks for being here. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, Waters Above was on Crypto Coffee's stream. Interesting. Does that person also do mental health awareness? Besides PLSD, what are other related airdrops? Already covered that. It's Hedron and things that have expired like Uniswap and ENS, Ethereum name system. And that's why I'm building a company. If I sell the Hex, the gains are gone. How about not selling Hex? Nice, says Bitfinesse. Vogel, good to see you here. It all depends on the price of Hex, though. Maddie was grinding, says Dan Best. Ricky, Spanish dude. When I dip, you dip, we dip. That's right. Ovidian, the great. Rockets. Hexican wrestler. Many more dips until we rest. Almost a Robert Frost quote. Lies beneath the truth. Hello, all. Shouting out Hex, eHex, pHex, Pulse, PulseHex for the win. Hex Live, get 'em. Shout out to you. Bitfinesse says, aping on the dips. Okay, all right, I already read that. Let's see. Schwa, hey y'all. I hope we are well and thriving. Joe Hexotic, if I just did that, I'd have nothing to do. Friendly reminder to all, not sure if mentioned yet, update your MetaMask. I did not mention that. What's going on with MetaMask? I have notifications turned on for Richard Hart and MetaMask on Twitter. If something's going on, I would expect them to have posted there. I am a little bit cautious, not to your comment at all, but I'm just a little cautious when I'm doing a stream that, like a couple thousand people, 2,000 to 3,000 people usually watch. I just want to fact check something before I put it out there. Let me see. Let me see if I can find anything really quick while we're live to just see what's going on. If you can also leave a reference, like when you bring up something like that, thanks for bringing it up. I also just don't really have the context. Is there a certain reason why updating is important at this moment? 369 fish oils. Happy thoughts today. Make for a happy tomorrow. Meltoni, been here since right after the big payday to the all-time high. It's not fun starting with the price of 5 cents, but we're all going through it. The other side will be very bright for all of us. I shared the Twitter links. Oh, wow. I said there weren't that many comments, and now there's tons of comments. Big Philly Steaks. Great meeting you in your well-run Hexpo Vegas event, Maddie. Still can't believe I got to chat with Richard for 15 minutes like that. Are you going to PulseCon in September? I don't like PulseCon, not because it's a Hex meetup, but because I don't like their business practices. And I try to speak highly of the community, but I also like to warn people. So I try not to say much about PulseCon, but I like it when people do Hex meetups. I supported the Crypto Sparbox tour when they did 40 cities around the country. I know that PulseCon is like the one that's getting advertised to everybody right now, but personally, I don't like the people organizing it. They were not good people to work with. Very bad people to work with. Yes, search queries save so much time. This is how people dig up old tweets so fast. Coincidence? I think not. Good evening, everyone. I will keep going to Hex meetups. I will keep conducting Hex meetups of my own. I like bragging about the fact that I simply broke even and did not profit from the last Hex meetup. That consumed like 6 months of my time to put together. And, I'm planning to do bigger and better in the future. Even it was because of working with certain bad actors that I couldn't make the last one even bigger and better. The original goal was like 1,300 to 2,000 people, and we pulled it off for about 600 people there in Vegas. Yeah, so I am certainly looking forward to meeting everybody. I might go out there to PulseCon. Maybe. I don't know. I'll be there for the Chicago meetup this in 6 days. The Poseidon Adventure. I do not know of that movie. Interesting. Retweeted. Hey, thank you. Believe in yourself. Get Hex. Island Life 369. Representing for the crabs. Shout out to you. I even had a space open to follow you. My limit of followers remains at 2,901. Interesting. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts. Mounds don't. Is there a Hex jingle in existence yet? Go to the website hexcds.com. Playlist I have with like all the the first 25 songs in Hex. And it's a play on words because it's Hex is a certificate of deposit. So it's Hex CD plural. So like hexcds.com. Should still take you to a YouTube playlist that I created. I don't think I let that one expire. Oh, still goes. First one that pops up is the Hexagon Anthem by Freddie Quotes. I like that analogy. The same reason you read from a book you wish to learn from before bed, so the mind can move what you read from short-term to long-term memory as you sleep. Precisely. I hear that you have a minimum of 8 touch points to get a message through to somebody. That is something that a lot of people say. It's like having a defined benefit pension, except for the exponential growth. I prefer calamari to crab. LOL. Right on. Hey, thanks for leaving a comment. I'm not sure I've seen your name pop up before, so welcome. Get Hex. I almost said Gen Hex. Get Hex. Island Life 369. Maddie, what if you staked last year at a higher price and your stake is about to end? You are now down big time. So what's your best advice? I mean, it's always going to be for the individual. What do you value more? Having another ticket into the future lottery of whether Hex is going to be doing better, or do you absolutely need the money now? For me, I learned a lot from delaying gratification, but I was lucky enough to have a job that it didn't pay me a lot of money, but it paid me enough, and I was able to keep my living expenses low so that I could accumulate more crypto. In this case, I was accumulating Bitcoin before Hex was created. But I mean, it really depends on your situation. I'm a little bit uncomfortable like giving people advice because I don't know what your situation is. But if you can set aside a little bit for the long term, then you can work your way backwards, right? If somebody can afford to get one T-share now for however much it is, $400, $500, and that's a 15-year stake, then you can work your way backwards. If you're still working or if you still have income, then you can maybe in a month or 3 months, depending on your income, maybe in a week or a month or 3 months or something, then you can make your 14-year stake. But put a T-share there if the price of Hex is still so low. Or maybe half a T-share is all you can buy if the price goes up, right? And then you work your way back. You might start out with the 15, 10, 5, and liquid ladder, and then fill in that ladder more in between. If I didn't have a full staking ladder now, that's what I would be doing. And I can tell you, I'm going to be restaking my principal, which is not going to feel good to me. And I have to prepare myself to do that. I have to make a plan, write it down. And somebody messaged me like that they think a good show topic would be actually, like I was talking about doing a suicide prevention plan, like actually doing a like T-share plan of writing it down, and what you're going to do with your pulse and pulse X sacrifices and all those coins and everything. Like, having a written plan, it gives you something to stick to, because in your mind, you could change your mind pretty often. But writing it down, it makes it a little bit more structured. Staking it on the blockchain makes it extremely structured. I hope that gives you some insight. Believe in yourself. A username. It could also be that were he to make a bad call that someone had leveraged themselves to the moon for, gets wrecked. This is the opposite of why he created this. Not sure if you're talking about Hex or Celsius, but I think, yeah, people can wreck themselves in Hex, certainly. And it's not meant to be traded in the short term, and it's meant to be a long-term savings plan. Delayed gratification for the win. Franklin, what's going on? Good to hear from you. Hey, Maddie, thanks for always reminding me not to be greedy. My pleasure, man. Shout out to you. Great stream as always. Glad to hear it. Dr. Craig Hinson. Great to be here, Maddie. Smash the like button. Thanks. Thanks for showing up and commenting. Why? Collect as many t-shirts as possible before it returns to the all-time high in June 2030. Yeah, as bearish as I am on the economy in the short term, in the next 6 months to 2 years, and everything like that, I think that what other people have been saying, even Litecoin and Dogecoin, they have survived many cycles. So what, do you think Hex isn't going to do a comeback ever again? Well, I could argue both sides of that. But it's a little bit reassuring to hear. If it's too reassuring, let me walk it back just a little bit and say, like, again, the last 12 years have been a huge expansion period. Now we might have to pay for that a little bit. But again, Hex is the long-term play. It gives value to me as impulsivity insurance on my finances, and paying my future self, which at least I know the economic policy going on in Hex, whereas I don't with the dollar. Doesn't mean I'm going to be, in fact, the opposite. I shouldn't rely on my Hex coming out, and I should find other ways to make a living in the meantime. And doing this, is like, sometimes covers my expenses, but the airdrops really, those save the day for me at this point. Grateful to be here on your stream, Maddie. Smash the like button, folks. Thank you. 10.9 t-shares to be a turtle, 109 t-shares to be a squid. Thanks for that. Hexsearch.io. Blew my mind. Check it out. Hope my internet signal isn't going down here. Might have cut out just a little bit. Miss the days when a well-constructed sentence could one-shot a search. Absolutely. Can you try to search 2 months? Yeah, right. That's Richard used to say 2 more months. Now, these are probably the 80 most recent videos. I'm not sure if it includes his self-help. We could say search video games and see if it goes back to his self-help videos. Yeah, it does. Look at that. Yeah. Trading destroys people's health. So does it include 2 months? 2 more months? Probably. I don't know if he always said it exactly like that. Oh, I guess he does say it like that. Look at that. Tons of, yeah. Months. Actually, 2 more months. Okay. So maybe it picked up a lot of instances where he used the phrase months, but maybe it's not all him saying 2 more months, but that'd be the way to find it, wouldn't it? fuzzy and or phonetic search with a certain percent match that can be tuned by a limit n of search results. Lewis III is breaking down how sexy this is, that hexsearch.io worked so well to identify the spelling of my last name, ALLin, ALLin, and brought up the results for all the times Richard had said Maddie Allen, even though it's spelled in the transcript as ALLen. I searched never gone down. Probably came up with like t-shirts. I searched PP but needs 3 letters. Really? Search my PP. Giant PP. My PP. Okay, there you go. Problem solved. Let's change it back to something else. I mean, just take this as an example. What about the times when he talked about his wallet ideas? Boom, build out a wallet, working on the wallet. See how incredibly powerful this tool is? Yeah. I could just think of things that Richard has said because I've listened to all of his streams, hundreds of hours very closely, but now I have access to all those memories, and I can replay it, going exactly to where he said working on a wallet. 40 minutes in to this stream with Alex Lorenz, it just pops up. How incredible is that? Great to see all the things that can help the community. Thanks again, Maddie. My pleasure, Mick. Proof that it takes more than one to create great things. Absolutely. Yeah, I went ahead. I messaged Richard as soon as I found this tool. I was like, hey, look how cool this is. So hopefully it has entered his consciousness. It will most likely cement some serious loyalty in some key people. I might be there, Maddie. Cool. Looking forward to possibly seeing you there at the Cubs game, Mike Page, and the pre-party. Constantine, are all Hex audits made public? Still learning. Thanks, Maddie. It was public, and then Gunther took it down because he was upset at people. People get mad at these Chainalysis guys. Silver the Antidote got a lot of hate that I don't think was warranted. Maybe they do cross the line. That's something we can explore in the future to try to tell both sides of the story of people who are doing Chainalysis, and how much trust we should put in them. But for now, whoever's bringing the numbers, that's so to answer your question, it used to be available, and then they took it down when it caused Nomics to change the rating of Hex, which I supported, but nobody else did. So yeah, it's a salty subject for some, and if you ask around in like maybe Hex trading or like Hex Pro on Telegram, you might be able to find some of it. But also messaging Gunther, I mean, he says he doesn't make it public for a reason. That's his choice. So you can find out from the source. Yeah. Caffeine and brewed iced tea and stuff, those can be abused too. When people are using too many milligrams, what is it that I say? You shouldn't use more than like 400 milligrams of caffeine in a day. If you're using more than that, then you should immediately cut in half. Don't go cold turkey, but be careful of that. It sounds like you might have already overcome that. I was used to reading to escape a life I hated. I read incessantly until I was suggested that I could create a life I needed no vacation from. Fascinating. Isaac Asimov's sci-fi books would be a read though through regularly, and I lived with this within the Star Wars expanded universe, so you might imagine I was not pleased with Disney for a long time. Red Lions 33, I tried to focus on being still for many years. I forgot about the powerful energy of positive affirmations. Important it is to leave the path you want to focus on and let your body follow. Yes. Move your feet and your mind will follow is the AA saying that I think has a lot of wisdom, that you don't have to be ready to make a change to start changing. And sometimes people, they wait. They wait for a New Year's resolution. They wait until they're motivated to change the things in their life. If you keep waiting for high motivation, that is only going to come and go. It's not going to be there constantly like you need it. So using a low motivation strategy is a major life hack. Stop waiting to lose weight or eat healthier or start exercising. Like don't make those giant things the goal. Make it taking omega-3, making it, make it esteem yourself, make it tracking your calories, make it something really small to where you can celebrate your successes to increase your motivation, and keep using low motivation strategies, because low motivation is something you can always count on. It's going to be more of a constant. And if you value those more, the little things add up, and it's not going to stop you from doing the big things when you have more motivation, but it will keep you going, and it will give you more of the energy you need. It takes a lot of energy to change our behaviors and to live our healthiest, best lives. And so move your feet first and your mind will follow means that you don't have to be ready to change. You just have to start doing it. Great advice, Manny. Thanks. That's a great point. Relearning positive words to just a footprint into positive thinking. It's crucial and very underrated. Yes. You need the right vocabulary to esteem yourself more efficiently. And at the same time, that might even be too complex and overwhelming for people who are starting off. So just say, I'm brushing my teeth because I deserve it, because I'm worth it, right? Those words, even if you don't believe them, if you do the self-esteem and you do the self-care, especially at the same time, you'll be surprised how helpful it is. It was the most surprising assessment I've ever done. Places like a 360 on a snowboard, turn your neck and your mind, and the body follows. Hexagon wrestler, you're doing great, Maddie. Thank you. Believe in yourself. That will also introduce you to Dave and Paul Blanchard. Dave was given the rights to all of OG Mandino's work by OG's widow. When you give voice to your thoughts, it gives them great power. So being mindful of which words are chosen is a habit worth forming. Good comments here, people. You learn from reprogramming self-confidence by projecting positivity. Then you learn to understand things later as a sequence. I used to give out How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. This one did save me from getting too far down the path of darkness. Art works for me. Hey, that's another great form of therapy. It is something that we all need to do more of before we help others each day, so that we can be at our most effective for those helped each day. Absolutely. Self-care is critical for taking care of others, although not obvious and not automatic. Red Lions 33. Most people are visual people. It's helpful to actually print them out and read them once or twice a day. Read them out loud for even more effect. Read out loud in front of a mirror for 5D, I hear. Good advice. Ooh, I like that point. Giving evidence you're worth it, that needs to be a poster. Hey, there we go. Thanks. Yeah. Similar to the principles of the movie called The Secret, our flat plane is the universe. What we throw out comes back like a boomerang. Perhaps that is the law of the universe. Another take on that is, the life-changing magic of tidying up says that even when we're folding our laundry, we can esteem our clothes, like our socks, if we roll them up like sushi balls instead of rolling them into a ball by folding them over themselves and stretching out the elastic, for like, if we're projecting positivity into our socks of all things, and if we're cleaning our dishes and saying like, you're worth it to be a clean dish, like I would say this in like a group of people at the mental health clinic, they would laugh at me, and then one person would go try it and come back and be like, no, that actually worked. Like I'm surrounded by positivity now that I'm projecting positivity into all these objects like a mirror. It bounces back towards me, and that's like what the Eastern philosophy that underlies the life-changing magic of tidying up was like trying to teach. That's what feng shui is, all that kind of stuff. Like arranging your furniture to have harmony. Like it's the harmony that you're creating for yourself in your environment. And it's not that your socks have feelings. It's that you're projecting your own feelings of positivity into the socks, and it's reflecting back to you. It's like super powerful stuff. Hex Monkey, what's up? Good to see you. Van Mac, someone suggested to me to think and act in terms of compounding. If you do things that are good, it compounds. Same the other way around. If you take care of yourself versus drug using, yeah, you get it. Hey, that's a super good point. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, life does have a way of compounding, doesn't it? I earn a sense of feeling worthy, one part at a time, each one earned when I was at the right place and the right time to help one of those who inspire me or who they've helped and are loved. Omega-3 changed my life in 1998. Wow, that's good to hear. This is going deep. Love it. It stopped my extremely painful hunger pains and gave me what I was missing to shed 50 pounds in 6 months with other changes other than switching carbs to protein. For me, yeah, I lost. I had been at the heaviest weight I ever was. I was very overweight, relatively speaking, and then I lost like 40 pounds when I started taking omega-3. And it wasn't because omega-3 causes you to lose weight by changing your metabolism or something. It changed my prefrontal cortex. It changed my brain. My brain became hungry for information and problem solving, and that's when I developed the motivation and the the brain capacity to start calorie tracking. And once you prove to yourself how calorie tracking, how effective it is, I mean, you can. And if there are enough other things that are stable enough in your life or that you have enough control over, I mean, it's an equation that works. If you cut out a certain number of calories each day, the trick is to not lose more than 2 pounds each week. If you lose faster than that, then your metabolism will change and your body will adjust and go into starvation mode and not allow you could eat the same amount of stuff that's less than normal and you still won't lose weight. And if you go back to eating your previous normal amount that's a higher number of calories, you'll gain more weight than you started with. There's this trap, survival trap in weight loss that don't lose more than 1 to 2 pounds a week. Like that's the max you should do. And if you take it steady, your body will adjust and the metabolism won't, reverse on you. Switching carbs to protein is great. Yeah. I lost nearly 120 pounds to dry fasting. Liquids only, 3 to 5 days a week, double and triple scoop, no microwave. Boom. Thanks for your streams and all you do, Maddie. Very important person to our community. My pleasure. I didn't want to lose quite that much, but that is where the body stabilized. Although 206 now, I feel safer on the north side of that number. Yeah, your body definitely will balance out. Mine balanced out on 225.63. I used to leave social for a few days to tie a knot on that rope and ride out the storm, but I stay present now and did ask for help in a specific way of one who could and wanted to help. Good for you. I miss the LG Android phone. LG stopped making phones, and the new voice text on my Samsung is a disaster. Oh, sorry to hear that. I swore off of asking questions as a kid due to the price of asking for help then. Peace, health, and happiness to everyone. I used to say sarcastically, but sometimes it's important, just like a ticker sheet. Every negative thought you have to be on some out with a positive. Sorry, my getting a little bit fatigued now. I'm about 3 hours in. You have to be on some out with a positive. So I like this imagery of like, a ticker, like a stock ticker going up and down, and you're trying to judge, are my thoughts positive or negative at this moment? Like that. So the ego is almost helping you exercise the positive if you implement that way. And then it goes into what's being talked about, into positive thinking to counterbalance. The habit of uplifting others, of saying the right thing that needs to be said. In other words, praise from the rooftops when earned. But it is a benefit that doing live streams is a very therapeutic thing to do. So as you guys can see, there are people here in the chat with, it sounds like, a great deal of experience themselves changing their behavior, losing weight, taking omega-3, using positive self-talk, and that's outstanding that they're able to share their experiences. MetaMask updates always freak me out. Me too. That was from a little bit ago. I do use the second monitor for fact checking when I'm engaging in a live stream. Cool. Optimal timeline. Here. Maddie ALLin, glad you shared meetups about just getting together. Yes. Tea time. Yeah, you will. I was going to suggest that an event well run would include you being well compensated. So like at the time I was planning the Hex conference, we were experiencing all-time highs 6 months before the Hex conference. So I felt that I was already getting compensated enough. And it was during a time when there was a sacrifice phase happening. And it was my position as somebody who was trying to be held accountable as an honest broadcaster, that my belief was that $1 in the sacrifice could turn into $10,000 someday. Not on a particular timeline, but that's what cryptos can do. So I became very passionate about saving people as much money as I could on the physical event that I was putting out, because an extra dollar for me is not as beneficial as an extra dollar for people being able to sacrifice and hopefully changing their lives. The point of the Hex conference was not necessarily to immediately onboard new people, but it was to keep cohesion. And we certainly did have activities. Abit showed up ready to hand out 10,000 business cards. So it was not it's not that we didn't do outreach, but it was mainly celebrating the Hexicans and educating further so that we can all hold on to what we have and hopefully get more as a community. So did $369 for a 4-day event at the Luxor in Las Vegas, with an audiovisual team, with everybody getting free t-shirts and hats and gear, and lunch was included for most people. So, incredible deal, if I do say so myself. Hulk, smash the like button. Jen Hex, there we go. The gas fee cost the same to unstake as the Hex total value, then what? What I would do in that situation is I would set a much lower gas fee, and I would let it run like overnight, so that usually you can set the gas like pretty low. Like, let me look at what it's at right now. I can give you kind of like my recommendation. And I'll give you the caveats as well. Because if your transaction gets stuck, then how much does it cost to get the transaction unstuck? $10, $50, usually at most during these kind of gwei times, like the amount of gwei that it costs. Right now at this moment, not even in the middle of the night in most places, gwei is down to 39 gwei. Ending a stake, even from the very early days, might, it's costing half or a third as much as gwei has been on average during the day. It's been 80 gwei, 120 gwei, stuff like that. 150 gwei. We saw 1,000 gwei a couple months, 3 months ago. So like, if the gwei, like when everybody's awake right now, if the cost is 39, I bet you could set the gwei as low as 25 or 30, and it would run overnight. It would be, it might be done in like 20 minutes, but I might get greedy and set it at 20, or 22 maybe. You could do a little bit of research, go to hex.vision and see what the lowest it like spikes down to, but maybe you're not really going to get that low. So don't get too greedy. Don't set it at like 5 gwei. I wouldn't think that would hit, and then you're gonna have to pay to like get the transaction unstuck. But when you're doing a swap, remember the reason why you're paying whatever the going rate is for a transaction is because that swap ratio price is only existing for a short time, and then the price is going to move up or down. So like, that's why you have to pay more if you're trading. But if you're just ending a stake, like, stakes don't end a stake early. Be very careful of that. You can go to the website front end that I helped create called go.hex.com, and you can do a read-only connection of your wallet, and it interacts with your MetaMask, and you can see if I don't ever advise ending a stake early, but you can see the calculation of how much you'll get. You can also do this on StakeRat, but we have a little bit more information than you would otherwise have on there. And you can look at both of them to make sure they're right. But if your stake has come, it's come to the end, and like now it's due, that means you have 14 days before it starts bleeding out 1% per week. And so in that 14 days, you want to try to catch a low transaction fee. And so, yeah, I mean, even now when the gwei is 40, you might get greedy and try to set it to 22 or 20 and wait a couple hours or a couple of days. If you're not going to bleed out, you can do the math and see, and be aware that it might cost $10 or $50 to get it unstuck. But if you're looking at the difference between, I've seen stakes that I ended in the past year, or that a family member ended, like waiting a few minutes, it costs $200 less. So just do the math for yourself and understand that you can manually set the gwei. Don't change the gas limit. If you change the gas limit, the transaction won't process. It's ultimate failure. But changing the gwei is going to put it so a miner can come along when there's no other transactions to fill the block and can take the lower fee. Hope that's super helpful. How to end stakes for a lower cost in Ethereum. In some circles, I've been called the comment king. All circles have one thing in common: people with big hearts, great outlooks, and bountiful results. There you go. Why Richard doesn't share what he buys or trades, I mean, he doesn't talk about his finances. Yeah. I'm grateful I was pointed in George Gammon's direction. He is who I learned so much more about the economy from. Okay, I'm familiar with him. Funding Jim has gone to some events with him lately. That's somebody in the Hex community. Funding GYM. I've been using the exercise of creating a portfolio using very little or a way to keep money from burning a hole in my pocket. See y'all Friday. What's Friday? Like, the happy hour. Just searched. Okay. Love the helpful info. About to order some Omegas. Yay. 0x Will makes me think of the Black Mirror episode where they can relay things they've lived through and watch the video. So cool. Yeah, I remember that episode. It's a freaky one. Yes, to celebrate every victory you can, and you can choose to have as many as you can choose to have as many as you need each day to celebrate. I live in harmony and get by with my own system of nihilistic critical judgment and constant brain work. There you go. Just quit eating carbs. That's a good one. Busy brain burns that glucose. Honey is a great aid. I'm 69 and have the physique of a 20-year-old. Can't wait for Pulse. Do you think September is the probable launch? I don't think September necessarily has anything to do with it. Richard has already said it's absolutely not based on the schedule of PulseCon. I am doing an online Pulse conference where Richard is speaking, and that'll be July 14th through 16th here on my YouTube channel. So, and I also heard through the grapevine. See, this is why you guys are still here after 3 hours. You want to hear all the alpha. I heard that this is a rumor, dollar cost crypto got Richard a spot to speak on the Fresh and Fit podcast, which has a huge viewership and would have a good overlap with Richard's like outrage marketing and that sort of thing. That I think they do Money Mondays, so it might be on Monday. But then Molly, the investor, like alluded to some interview that Richard might be able to do in 4 days, and that was like 2 or 3 days ago. So not sure. Can't get enough of you guys. And RH, real positivity. Hey, thanks. Shout out to you for keeping yourself in such good health and being excited for Pulse and positivity. Visualize all the great things that are coming. What's up, Charity? I've been onboarding all my old golf buddies, setting them up with a Nano X and links to MetaMask. They are buying lots of Hex, getting ready for mainnet. That's awesome. It's really great to onboard people when it's such a dip. Thank you for taking the time to address all these questions. We appreciate you. Looks like dollar cost crypto is live now. Great stream, Maddie. Well, let me send everybody over there. It's been a while since I rated somebody, but let me show you all how to find dollar cost crypto if you're not subscribed. If you're not subscribed to me, hit the like and subscribe button now. Actually, I've got 2 different places to send you if you go to another stream because of what I'm telling you. Please let them know that I sent you there in the live stream comments. So they can know that they're being rated by Maddie ALLin. So there's dollar cost crypto, right, who streams about lots of different cryptocurrencies, and then there's Ashley Ash, who is an up and comer new streamer who's talking about spiritual preparation for abundance and hard times. So Ashley Ash has 8 people watching, and I like her. Dollar cost has 180 people watching. His title is Be a Man with a Plan. So go check out both of those streams and check it out. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You guys rock. I will be back on Tuesday for Game Theory Gang. Probably have another great guest. And every Thursday here for Hex Therapy Live, and then do pop-up shows in between. Ooh, I'm going to do 2 outros.
What we're hoping and what we're thinking is that when the monetary environment changes from a fiat system where people are incentivized to spend as quickly as possible before prices go up, or else you'll be able to get less in the future for the same amount of effort that you put into your paycheck. Hex is a new system that rewards people for saving instead of punishing people for saving. And so that's one thing that I think can fundamentally change the behavior of humans, is by changing their financial environment and allowing people to experience what's possible when they have a stake in their own future, and when people can work together in order to make the future more abundant for all.
From Maddie ALLin of Hex Therapy Live. I like Maddie. Maddie tries to make the world a healthier place. He's a mental health professional. He's done research.
Big videos on sudden wealth syndrome.
There's nothing that a human being can do better than try and heal his fellow man.
Maddie ALLin's got that covered. Does emotional, feel good, mind management, emotion stuff like as his gig, because he's a therapist. That's what he does for a living. Like, he helps heal people.